Hi everybody. This is, well, yeah. Okay. So, for those of you who don't know, I play League of Legends. It's a nice Dota game online. Nice community. It's basically Dota 2 ripoff, but it's actually pretty unique in my opinion. I like it. You can like it if you don't, that's fine. Anyway, that's not very important. But it has something to do with the storyline. Also, my girlfriend, SecondaryCharacter, also known as Samantha, she has a DeviantArt page. You've probably seen her if you've been on my DeviantArt page, and she's also been in a couple of my videos before I had a good microphone and, got a little bit better at this whole recording thing. Anyway, she started watching My Little Pony. Friendship is Magic. The one that has, like, an entirely overgrowing, humongous fan base. And since I'm her boyfriend and therefore unwilling participant in experiments, she made me watch it as well. Now, one season later, I am slowly becoming a brony. Somebody help me, please! So, yeah. Help me. But that's not part of this video. This video is because I was playing League of Legends with a couple of my friends over Skype, right? And I told them basically. I was like, oh, yeah, so, I became a brony. I'm becoming a brony. I have not became a brony yet. I'm becoming a brony. So I keep saying to myself, I don't think it's happening, actually. I think I'm going crazy. Anyway, so they know that I do Let's Plays. I showed them a link to my Lavender Town video, which, by the way, has, like, the most views I've ever gotten on a video ever. I'm really surprised about that. And, so, one of them was rather distasteful about it. Like, whatever, bronies are, The other one was like, oh, hey, I have a challenge for you. And this is that challenge. He went online and picked out a fanfic of My Little Pony for me to read. Not just any comic either. It's a CLOP fic. Now, for those of you who don't know, a CLOP fic is basically a one-shot, and for those of you who don't know what a one-shot is, it's a pornographic fanfic, or fan-created storyline. So basically, this is for mature audiences only, and children should not watch unless they've already been exposed to the pornographic side of the internet, which they probably have because, let's face it, the internet corrupts children. So let's get this on the road. I don't want to do this! This is My Little Pony. Friendship is Sexy. Part 1. Oh god, I can't believe I'm doing this. Alright, let's do this. Smack yourself in the face. We really don't have time for this, Twilight Sparkle hissed under her breath. Make up an excuse, Spike. Tell them you have a stomachache. The baby dragon rolled his eyes. Twilight, he said, can't you just enjoy yourself for one afternoon? You're supposed to be making new friends. Twilight Sparkle and Spike had come to Sweet Apple Acres to oversee preparations for the Summer Sun Celebration Banquet. Instead, they had met Applejack, a spunky tomboy of a pony who had immediately gone and introducing them to the entire Apple family before inviting them to a brunch that had turned into a banquet in its own right. There'll be plenty of time to make friends after we save Equestria from Nightmare Moon, Twilight responded testily. Rising up from her plate of apple pie, she trotted over to where Applejack was just finishing her own meal. Listen, Applejack, the meal was wonderful, but Spike and I really have to be going now. Applejack looked up from under her large hat and shot a large grin back at her. Well, shucks, Miss Twilight, we can't let you all leave just yet. The fun's just getting started. Twilight shuffled her hooves uncomfortably, wondering how to extract herself from this situation when she suddenly realized that the members of the Apple family had all finished their desserts and were now beginning to get a little bit too playful with each other. Oh god. Twilight gasped in embarrassment as she saw Apple Fritter and Red Gala were interlined with each other on the ground with their noses stuck between each other's hind legs. The young mares were completely oblivious to everything around them as they licked each other lovingly. Incest? Okay. Now it's really time for us to go, Twilight said nervously, but Applejack just laughed and gave her a smack on her violent rump. Nonsense, little lady. It's time we showed y'all just what kind of fun we have here at Sweet Apple Acres. Oh, God. Twilight stiffened as Applejack circled around her behind her and forwardly pushed her multicolored tail away with her nose. Oh, God. Oh, this hurts. Exposing the pony's Rhea to her tongue. Oh my gosh, Twilight exclaimed sharply as she felt Applejack's tongue slither up the length of her sensitive slit. She jumped away skittishly and attempted to cover herself with her tail. Don't worry, Sugar. Come and have some fun with us, Applejack called after Twilight as Red Delicious and Golden Delicious walked up and began nuzzling her. She giggled as the two brothers licked at her neck. I was going to give Twilight first pick, darlings, but I guess we need to show her what she's missing. Oh, God. Twilight's eyes were drawn down to large erections that Red and Golden were sporting almost against her will. For a moment she pictured one of the boys mounting her from behind, and Twilight quickly pushed the image out of her mind as something else occurred to her. Wait a minute, Applejack. Aren't they your family? Applejack had begun to lick the two ponies, but she flashed Twilight a big smile. Aw, heck, cousin, brother, sister, it's all the same here at Sweet Apple Acres. We're a right close and loving family. Ew. Applejack lifted one of her hind legs into the air to allow Golden Delicious access to her wet crotch as she continued to lick her cousin's stiff cock. Golden dove in immediately, his large tongue working eagerly around the lips of her pussy before flicking playfully at her clit, causing Applejack to shudder and moan in delight. Oh, God. Twilight watched awkwardly as Red Delicious repositioned himself so that his long cock pointed directly at Applejack's face. The blonde pony looked up at him and said, Come on, cousin, give me all you got, before taking the head into her mouth and bumping back and forth. Red threw back his head and pushed forward, burying more of his cock into Applejack's mouth while she did her best to deep-throat as much of it as she could. Once he'd forgotten as far as Applejack could handle, he held it there for a moment as he enjoyed the feeling of the mare's wet mouth squeezing around his cock before reluctantly pulling himself out and allowing her to breathe again. After a quick breath, Applejack went back to licking and sucking in with great enthusiasm. Oh, God. Not even, it's just like, boom, there they go. Finally, Red cried out, I'm gonna come, cousin, before once again ramming as much as he could down her throat. Applejack stretched out her long neck to accommodate his length and closed her eyes as Red shot his load of thick pony cum directly into her stomach. When Red was just about done, he pulled out of her throat. A few final spurts of cum shot onto her open mouth as well as across her freckled face. Golden Delicious stepped away and licked the sweet juices from his lips as Applejack stood. Twilight began to back away as the blonde pony approached her purposefully, but there was no escape. Applejack forced Twilight into a passionate kiss as she shared the cum she hadn't already swallowed. The kiss lasted only for a moment before Twilight jerked back, but to her surprise she found the taste of red seed to be delicious. Twilight hesitantly swallowed what she had in her mouth, feeling very conflicted. Well, maybe we can stay a little longer, Twilight said as she watched Applejack lick the rest of her cousin's cum off her lips. I knew you'd come around, Sugar, Applejack said as she circled around Twilight again. Oh, jeez. This time, the purple pony leaned the front of her body down towards the ground while pushing her up higher into the air as presented to Applejack with a flick of her tail. Twilight shuddered as she bit her lip as she felt the orange mare's tongue lap up and down the lips of her pussy before pushing its way inside of her. Okay, yeah, this is definitely, yeah. I mean, at first she was like, oh, now, at first she was against it, now she's all for it, whatever. Applejack moaned with delight as she shoved her tongue in deeper as Golden Delicious, not content to just sit by and watch, nuzzled her rear end before jumping up and mounting her. His long claws slid into her easily, and he began to thrust wildly. Applejack's face was pressed even harder against Twilight's soaked pussy. After a few minutes, Applejack stopped licking to shout out, "Come on, cousin, you can go faster than that." Golden Delicious redoubled his efforts as he did his best to pound the horny pony beneath him. "Oh yeah, now you're getting in deep," she sighed. Twilight felt a twinge of disappointment as Applejack's attention turned entirely to the fucking she was receiving. Her dripping cunt burned with desire as she stepped back to watch the horny ponies. Suddenly, she felt someone brush up against her and, turning, found Big Macintosh smiling at her. Applejack looked up at her, panting. "We ain't gonna leave you hanging, Sugar Cube. You're our best guest of honor, and that means you get Big Mac." Stealing a pig. Twilight saw that Big Mac did indeed live up to his name. He was so well hung, in fact, that the purple pony started to have second thoughts. I'm not sure if this is a good idea," she said, pawing the ground nervously. "Aw, shucks, Big Mac's real gentle," Applejack reassured her, punctuating her sentence with a long moan. Nodding towards a nearby tree, she said, "Just brace yourself up over yonder, and I'll promise he'll show you a real good time." With butterflies in her stomach, Twilight walked over to the tree and placed her hooves against its trunk while standing up on her hind legs. Then she shut her eyes and tried not to clench up as Big Mac strutted over towards her. The red pony's massive, powerful front legs gripped her torso as he jumped up onto her. Twilight gasped as she felt the head of his massive cock push against her opening. At first it seemed like it wouldn't fit, but with one powerful thrust, Big Mac's massive shaft sunk home. As Applejack had promised, however, Big Mac started off with slow and gentle but very deep thrusts. The stud licked Twilight's long neck tenderly, and soon she began to loosen up as the inexperienced mare found herself quite surprised at how good Big Mac's cock felt sliding in and out of her. Before she knew, she found herself yearning for him to go faster. "Oh, that feels really good," Twilight grunted. You can go faster if you want." Oh god, I'm getting way too into this. Big Mac obliged, and his pace began to quicken. Quality entertainment here. Twilight felt the weight of his sturdy body press her against the trunk of a tree, and his front legs dug into her sides as he fucked her roughly. Warm juices, a mix of her own lubrication and Big Mac's thick pony cum, ran down her hind legs. Finally, she gave in completely. "Please, fuck me, Big Mac, harder," she begged. Applejack smiled, satisfied to see that her new friend had given in to her pleasure. Then, turning her attention back to her own situation, she said, "Let's switch, cousin." Golden Delicious dismounted from her reluctantly. It was only a minute before Applejack had rolled onto her back, however. Her tight pussy, orange on the outside and pink on the inside, was dripping wet as she looked up at him with all four of her legs spread wide open. Golden Delicious climbed back on top of her, immediately thrusting the entirety of his long pony cock into his cousin's inviting hole and eliciting a long moan from her as he bent down her neck to lick at her face. Although Twilight had become lost almost entirely in the rough fucking she was receiving from Big Mac, her eyes opened slightly as she saw Red Delicious standing off to the side, his cock fully erect again as he watched. A naughty thought God. And her unicorn horn began to glow slightly. The young pony gasped in surprise as he felt an unexpected pleasure run up and down the length of his erection, and Twilight smiled to herself. "You're the tightest pony I've ever had, Miss Twilight," Big Mac grunted as he gave her an especially hard thrust, causing her to shudder. Then he added, "Except for my sister, of course," as Applejack shot him a look. The orange pony smiled and winked at her brother. Then she gasped and let out a long moan, wrapping all four of her legs tightly around Golden Delicious to keep him buried deep inside of her as she began to come. "Fill me up, darling," she encouraged as the insides of her cunt squeezed his shaft urgently. It was more than the poor pony could handle, and Applejack felt his cock bulge slightly as he began to come. The two ponies shook as though they shared a powerful orgasm. Golden Delicious unloaded his thick pony cum into her, and soon it was running down her rump and into her tail as it spilled out of her. When Golden Delicious was spent, he untangled himself and pulled out, leaving his cousin lying exhausted on the ground, with her legs splayed and a big smile on her face. Red Delicious approached her stiffly, groaning as Twilight got him off with her unicorn magic. Applejack turned her head towards him just in time to catch the first massive blast of cum directly in her face. Jet after jet of warm cum sprayed over Applejack, coating her entire body. By the time he was finished, the apple girl cow pony was dripping head to hoof with the sweet, sticky substance. Is it bad that I don't know Golden and whatever Delicious? I really don't. I really don't know them. Twilight felt herself beginning to go over the edge as well, as Big Mac pounded into her relentlessly. Sandwiched between the powerful pony and the trunk of the apple tree, she bit her lip and did her best to stay standing as she felt her legs weaken. The situation seemed totally unreal to the bookish mare as she experienced an explosive orgasm. Big Mac continued to thrust deeply, pumping Twilight full of cum as she convulsed uncontrollably beneath him. When they had both finished, Big Mac pulled out and stepped away as Twilight slumped down against the tree with her tongue lolling out of her mouth. Her hind legs were open wide, exposing her cum-colored and well-fucked backside. At this point, Twilight was beyond caring who saw. As Twilight recovered her strength, she felt several tongues lap at her cunt. Looking back lazily, she saw that Apple Fritter and Red Gallo were enthusiastically gathering up the cum oozing from her pussy. When they had gotten their fill of it, the two ponies turned and gave each other a cum-swapping kiss as the Delicious brothers mounted both of them from behind. Nearby, Applejack had cleaned up a bit and was hungrily lapping at her brother's cock as it slowly began to come to life. Rolling over and rising to her feet again, Twilight sighed contentedly. Her visit to Sweet Apple Acres had been more fun than she'd thought, but it really was time to go. As she trotted away, Applejack raised her head off Big Cock's mouth and Big Matt's cock. God, I can't talk. And yelled out, "It sure was nice meeting you, Twilight. Y'all come back any time now." Oh, picking her way through the raucous orgy, Twilight finally managed to track down Spike. When she finally found him, he was energetically banging away at a tiny pony with a big pink mow that she recalled was named Apple Bloom. "Spike," said Twilight, with a disapproving frown. "She's way too young to be having sex." "So am I," replied the baby dragon smoothly. "She wanted it, and she's too small to handle any of the other ponies," he argued as Twilight rolled her eyes. "I'm almost finished, then we'll go," Spike said as he slapped Apple Bloom's ass, causing the little pony to squeal in delight. The two youngsters continued to go at it wildly until Spike pulled out and started to jerk his scaled cock. Apple Bloom spun around immediately and opened her mouth as Spike threw back his head and gave her a messy facial. When he was done, cum was plastered all along her face and her mane and was dripping out of her filled mouth. Even her pink bow was completely covered with the stuff. Spike barely had time to say goodbye before Twilight's magic whisked him away onto her back. "I'll come visit again," he cried out, and Apple Bloom as the two of them trotted away. "20 minutes of this. I've been doing this for 20 minutes. And it's only part 1. Oh god.